it's Kevin Carr from Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning and Movement is Medicine. And today I want to talk to you about squatting. And I specifically want to talk to you about butt wink and how to set up correctly in the squat so that doesn't happen. So what do I mean by butt wink? I think a lot of us have seen someone squat before or squat ourselves and seen this tuck that happens down at the bottom. Let's do a couple more. You start with your chest way up and then bang, that butt tucks underneath at the bottom. Not an ideal position to be in, especially if you have a lot of load at your chest or shoulders compressing down in that posteriorly tilted position. So what are we going to do to get rid of that? Traditional squatting instruction for years was always chest up, right? So pretend you got a barbell on your back, right? Your coach used to always say, stick your chest up nice and big. You got this big lumbar arch, and then you squat down and bang, what happens? You still tuck underneath. You do all the hip mobility work, you do all this core strengthening, and you still can't seem to get a good squat where you're able to maintain a good spinal position at the bottom. And that's because it's actually a paradox. It's kind of counterintuitive. When you start a squat in a really extended position, you actually limit your range of motion to be able to squat correctly. Because if you think about what happens at your pelvis and your femur, get in that extended position, again, what happens is he actually flexes this pelvis forward, right? So what happens as he goes down and his femur comes upward, go for it, he actually runs into the end of his hip flexion range of motion sooner because his pelvis starts in a position of flexion, and then the only place for his pelvis to go is to tuck right back underneath and not in a good position at the bottom where there's going to be a lot of compressive force, especially if we have a lot of weight on our back. So what we actually want to do is set up the opposite. Go against all that traditional wisdom of saying chest up, and I actually want to cue ribs down and pelvis under. So a lot of times when we're talking about anti-extension core exercise, we're giving this same cue where I'm going to say tuck the pelvis under, belt buckle to the ceiling. Exhale, get your ribs down just to create some tension. Then he can breathe behind the brace after that, but it's a good cue to teach someone, exhale, get your ribs down. Now he's got some tension in the front. Now watch Tyler squat here and look how much more upright his torso is than in those previous demos. Because he's starting a position of relative pelvic posterior tilt, he has more room for that hip to flex upward because his pelvis isn't flexed forward on his femur, right? So the cue we typically want to give is ribs down, pelvis under, let the knees travel forward and squat down, and you can see how much more vertical his torso is here. So what we're going to do with beginners, another way to help coach that is to teach them to anterior reach. Give them a ball, a dumbbell, something light. This is about 8 pounds from the reach out in front. It's going to help him develop that core stability and keep his torso upright. From there, then I would move to a goblet load or a Zercher load, another load up front here that's going to force him to use his core muscles. So after a med ball, one thing I like to often do is just to throw a bag like that, let him squeeze it. Same thing, tuck pelvis under, squat. And that anterior load is going to force him to keep his torso up. Additionally, you can see here we're using a heel lift. Often with most of the clients who come to train with us at MBSC, we're going to elevate their heels. One, it's going to help us get around any ankle dorsiflexion deficits. If they're limited in ankle dorsiflexion, we're going to start with a heel lift. It's going to put us in a position of relative plantar flexion, so there's more room in their ankle to squat. But even more so, by elevating the heel and slightly bringing his body forward, it's going to allow him more space to get his pelvis under him and keep his torso upright. So it's just going to help him maintain a better torso position throughout the squat. So let's give me one more rep here. Again, you see how he's able to manage a nice torso position because he has that pelvis under, he has an anterior core load, and he has a little bit of a heel lift. So again, if you're going to be squatting, especially with Gen Pop clients, think about adding a heel lift, get that pelvis underneath, and give them some sort of anterior core load to help them use those core muscles most effectively when they're squatting. I hope you like this video. Give it a try. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you here next time.